Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, author and screenwriter Greg Cope White talks about finding the beef.
The commanding officer is giving us an overview of how rough this summer's going to be and what they expect of us. He says, you know what? We're going to make it worth your while. If you do everything that I tell you to the best of your ability and meet the standards that we've set here in Officer Candidate School, we're going to reward you at graduation night with a steak dinner. And believe me, after you've been training for 4 or 5 hours, that meal is the best meal you've ever had.
Today on Storyworthy, author and screenwriter Greg Cope White tells a story called Where's the Beef? Stay close.
Hey, it's Greg Cope White, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of almost 13 years, or you're a brand new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys had a chance to listen to the guest last week, who was SNL alum Gary Kroeger. Do you know Gary Kroeger, Greg?
I do, and I worship him. He is so great, not only as a writer and a performer, but the way he lives his life post-SNL is stellar.
Oh my gosh, I agree. I totally agree. I didn't know Gary Kroeger, and wow, what a nice guy. Interesting, educated, smart. He ran for a congressional seat in Iowa. I mean, the guy, he's just multi-talented and a wonderful person. Last week, he told a story about... Okay, he had to go back to his ex-girlfriend's house to retrieve something, whatever. Next thing you know, she comes in with a new boyfriend. Gary has to hide. Where do you go? What do you do? What do you do? So just like in a sitcom, Gary goes under the bed. And then you know, as well as I do, what happened next with the girl and her new boyfriend. And sure enough, Gary's under the bed for all of it. So go back, you guys, listen to Gary Kroeger last week. Gosh darn, he's funny. But not today.
Did he pick up any tips?
No. He was underneath the bed and he could hear the mattress going like...
I'd be maybe hoping for a tip. Listening, maybe there's a nugget being thrown out that could change my whole style.
Oh my gosh. It was such a great story. You guys definitely listen to that show, but not now. Stay with me here because today I have with me a guest who's been here before, and he's just such a wonderful person and so talented as well. Greg Cope White is here, you guys. And Greg, you wrote the book, The Pink Marine, and you told the story on Storyworthy a few years ago. And then just like 2 months ago, I re-aired that story, The Pink Marine, because it's just so good. And now, through the grapevine, I've heard that The Pink Marine is being made into a series for Netflix.
What?
You...
Oh my God, that sounds fantastic. I gotta Google that.
Greg, you gotta figure this out. There's this guy. No, and Greg, you've worked for Norman Lear for like 3 decades, right?
We've been affiliated, so I still work for him because he's an executive producer of the show and has developed it with us all these years. So yeah, he was my big break. This is my 3rd Norman Lear show to write on.
That is so exciting. And did he just love the book that much? I mean, what's the impetus of him saying, hey, yeah, this has to be a series?
He's loved the story since day one. When I first started working for him 30 years ago, we were on a political show called Powers That Be, and he heard about my Marine Corps past and just really loved the story. So actually the first assignment I ever did for him, I rewrote a screenplay that he had in development at the time where Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be the Tooth Fairy. That went on to somebody else. The Rock went on and played it. But for when we had it with Schwarzenegger, he had me rewrite it so that Schwarzenegger was a drill instructor by day and then the Tooth Fairy at night. And just through the year, he called me sergeant. That was my rank, my final rank in the Marines. And he called me sergeant all the time. And there's a great person that also worked for him in development named Rachel Davidson. You may know Rachel.
No.
And she would hear Norman call me sergeant, and she thought it was just a cute nickname, kind of like calling a big guy tiny. And he's like, no, that's really, he's a sergeant. So she said, I have to hear that story. So she was instrumental in, even when I was writing the book, telling me to go deeper and find different layers. And then once the book was out, she optioned it for television. And then that's when Norman came back in. Norman wrote the foreword to the book too. You know, Norman's a combat veteran. He flew 27 missions in World War II.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is so impressive.
His book is incredible. Even this I get to experience. If you love books, the Audible is fantastic. It's Norman telling the story. It's fantastic. It's a great book.
What's it called? What's his book called?
Even this I get to experience.
Oh, nice. I like that. That's nice. You know, it's just it says so much about Norman Lear as a classy guy, you know, that he sees the story in the Pink Marine and he sees how relative it is to everybody, you know, being the odd man out, you know, not just about homosexuality, but about, you know, being the odd person out. It's like a fish out of water story.
Which is what I found in the book as I was writing the book and developing the other characters in the book that I got to meet and interact with. You learn that everybody comes in for a different reason. Everybody has a different story. Everybody's going to take something else out of it. The camaraderie and the brotherhood that I found there is something that not only I'd not experienced up to that point in my life, because as you know from the book, I moved around a lot. I went to 13 schools in 11 years. So I had no permanence. I had no touchstone. And, you know, what the Marines gave me was all of that. I had to earn it. But once you get it, it's just the most fantastic feeling in the world. I wish it on anyone.
That's so exciting. I have another buddy, a comedian, Jacob Rosales, and he was in the Marines for 4 years. And just last week I was saying, aren't you glad you did that? Like, aren't you glad, like, you have that feather in your quiver or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, wow, that's nice. You said you were going to do that. You did that, and you have that. I think it's really exciting.
There weren't a lot of opportunities for me growing up. First off, I didn't see... There were no gay role models. We kind of thought Elton John might be gay, but he hadn't come out. Yeah. So that's literally how blank the slate was. So I had no one to look up to, nobody to tell me that my life was even okay. And then the Marines, ironically, where it was illegal for me to serve the entire time for being gay, they ironically gave me the confidence to live my authentic life. So
because that was the Clinton years of don't ask, don't tell, right?
I was just before that. So it was just flat out illegal.
It's just unbelievable. And it's so interesting that it's not that far in our past, just a couple of decades ago.
That's what I examine in the book. And I talk about that, you know, that this is really recent history.
Yeah. So today you bring forth the topic, where's the beef? And I think this is also going to be a Marine story. This ties in with the Marines, right? Where's the beef?
It does.
Okay, listen, before we get to your story, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about The Pink Marine coming out on Netflix. Now, the title will be The Pink Marine, right?
I'm not sure. Actually, they are looking for something to speak more to the ensemble. It will always say, based on the book, The Pink Marine, but there could be a different title. We just won't know till closer to the time.
And so you start shooting next week, you said?
We do, next week.
And where are you shooting?
We're shooting in New Orleans, which is exciting because that's where the book is set.
Wow.
I joined in New Orleans. I met my best friend in New Orleans, and that's what the entire book is about. The book is an examination of my childhood best friend and I going in together on the buddy system and the jeopardy that we both faced with my secret.
Yeah. But you went to, there's only 2 Marine bases in the country, right? Camp Pendleton and Camp Lejeune. Is that it? There's several bases. Those are both bases, but there's only 2 recruit training centers. One in San Diego, we call those Hollywood Marines, and one at Paris Island. Parris Island, South Carolina.
Yes, that's the original boot camp, and you want to really enjoy the humidity of South Carolina in the summer, the sand fleas. You need all that. I wanted the whole experience.
Now, let me ask you something. So, they're picking up this series, The Pink Marine, or whatever it's going to be called. You're going to do 10 right out of the gate. And what is your credit? Now, your credit is story by, your story based on, or what is your credit there?
Based on the book by, and I'm an executive producer. I write the show as well. There's a showrunner who's fantastic, and he wrote the pilot, and I've been in a room for the past year and a half writing the episodes with fantastic staff. 2 combat Marines are on staff, and we just had a great time. The book was a kind of a logical pattern to follow for the show because it starts before I went to boot camp and then finishes when I graduate from boot camp.
So the year, it's actually a period piece then, because it starts in like 96 or something?
1990. So
90, okay.
We started in 1990, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in 94. So if we're lucky enough to get a second season, a third season, then we can explore Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
But how exciting in terms of like when you're shooting this, so there's no cell phones, there's no... I don't even know if there's DVDs, there's CDs. I'm just saying it's a period piece. I mean, you're talking about 30 years ago. There's
a relief in not having to deal with cell phones and social media in production. We don't have to create a text bubble that pops up. It's nice to do it clean and straight. When I was writing this book was the freest experience I've had writing to date. I'd already written screenplays, and I'd written several television shows at this point, but I hadn't written a book. And even though I was encouraged to write it as a screenplay, I still wanted to write it as a book, which of course creates IP for a television series. But also I wanted to have that freedom for the first time in my life to write in a full, long narrative voice.
Okay, hang on. What did you say? You said an IP. What's that?
That's intellectual property. So that's the based on the book by. So Sony and Netflix bought the book as intellectual property, and the show is based on the book.
Can you believe when
None
you
of this?
started?
I don't know. Everything we've said, I don't know how many minutes we've been talking, but I don't believe a word of it. Nothing.
Now, wait a second.
This is not how my life was supposed to play out.
I'm so excited for you, man. Really, I'm so thrilled. But I also, when you started the Marines, can you imagine that you would still be talking about it? It would still be in your world 30 years later. In other words, your enrollment into the United States Marine Corps, it's actually now like part of your whole life because it's gone on long after you were out of the Marines.
Well, the title lasts forever. That was I'd rather have that title than Prince. It's because I had to work for it, but it lasts forever. And I did know from pretty much the first week I was there that I was going to write this story somehow. I wasn't a writer yet. I was 18 years old, but the visual images that were coming in and the people that I were meeting, I knew that I was going to write about it. I just didn't know that I was going to write a book. I didn't know what a book looked like. I didn't.
Yeah.
I just really, when you read the book, you'll know I didn't have a lot of hope. So the last hope would be to write a best-selling book that would go on to become a television show. No, not in my future.
You have thepinkmarine.com, and that's a very comprehensive website with beautiful images.
My boyfriend built that site for me.
Did he really?
He designed my book cover.
I love the images on that site. The pink combat boots.
He's the best. That's not what he does. He's just good at it.
Oh, there was this one photo of the flagpole, and there's these pink boots at the top of the flagpole.
And do you know what it is? When you hover over that, it moves. You don't know it unless you hover over it with your mouse.
I'll have to do that.
He put these little Easter eggs in there for me.
So is your boyfriend going to go down to New Orleans with you guys? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I was raised in New Orleans. It's really exciting for me to shoot it there because Dale, my best friend who I enlisted with, that's the whole jumping off point in the book. we met in New Orleans when we were in the 9th grade on a school bus, the first day of school, and have been best friends ever since. He's here in LA now. We're still people. If you don't know, 49 years later, we're still best friends. I'm the godfather to his 3 kids. He's a surgeon here in LA. And
he's a surgeon.
He's a surgeon and a businessman and just a fantastic guy. We're closer than ever. So he'll be there. He'll be there for the table read. He's going to watch the filming. And then, of course, my boyfriend, yes.
Yeah, that's so great. Holy cow, boy, what a life that guy's led, right? 4 years in the Marine Corps, and now he's a surgeon.
Yes, he is a fantastic guy. And
that is very interesting.
Yeah,
what a world.
You never know what's going to cross your path, and I'm just happy that on that first day of school that I decided to talk to him because we realized we had just seen each other in 3 classes, I think, and now we're on the school bus together, so we became fast friends. And
it's so wonderful. Yeah, I love that. That's a wonderful, organic, simple meeting that paid off. You know what I mean? That's neat. There's not many people in your life that you can pinpoint like that.
No, I certainly
never.
I didn't expect to have that kind of relationship with someone that's straight as well, which is that's what we're examining in the show. You know, the book and the show both examine everybody's place in the world, and especially the masculine world.
Yeah. It's so exciting. It's like it's about friends. It's about love. It's about, looking past what maybe you don't have in common with somebody. Like, who cares?
Everybody comes in to every situation with something different, whether you're joining the Marines or starting school or starting a new job. And it's the individuals and their character that allow us to grow and change ourselves. The individuals that we meet and the characters that we meet and how we react and how we interact, what we learn from them, what we take from them, and what we give.
That's right.
And honesty is really the best policy. That's how I wrote the book. I was completely honest. For the first time in my life, I had no showrunner over my shoulder. I had no studio over my shoulder. When I wrote the book, I didn't have an agent for the book yet. I had a TV agent, but not a book agent. I didn't have a publisher yet. I didn't even know what I was doing. I'd never written a book. So that's why a lot of people find the book funny, because I was writing so freely. You know what that's like.
So freely. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. It's the best way to read. It's like somebody's talking to you.
And there's nobody over your
conversation.
shoulder.
Yeah, it's conversation. Well, I have to say, The Pink Marine, it's lasted, this book, because I think it's still selling. Am I right? It sells.
It is, yeah.
Because, and the way I know this is because, okay, on YouTube, I always post a little promo of story-worthy of each episode, on YouTube, and I can see how many hits they get. And when I just aired The Pink Marine, the story you told you told me like 10 years ago, but when I aired it a couple of months ago, just off the YouTube promo, I got like 1,500 hits off your promo.
Nice. I appreciate that. This is, I'm doing this conversation because we're friends and I love having this conversation, but it's also a marketing tool. Let's be honest. You're going to post this and people might want to read more about the book. I'm going to post this. People might want to read more about the book. I've got the books out in paperback, hardcover. I narrate the audiobook.
Yeah.
It's
I think it's just the book. I think the title, just The Pink Marine, it's so catchy. It's so fast. Like everybody gets it right away what this is going to be about. And it's so catchy because all my other promos get maybe 400 hits, 500 hits. And then all of a sudden there's yours, 1,500 hits. I swear to God, I think it's the title.
I do like winning.
I also like winning. Thank you so much. Me too. All right. We're going to get over your story in just a second. But before we do, I wanted to remind everybody that my other show, My Life in 3 Songs, is going strong over there on Spotify. I talk to comedians about the 3 songs from their life that have impacted them. And I've had on some amazing comedians like Todd Glass and Greg Proops and Ed Krasnick and Kira Sultanovich. I mean, the list goes on and on. But you guys have to go over to mylifein3songs.com, follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at mylifein3songs, and please listen to the show over on Spotify because you see, we listen to the music and I don't steal music. So it has to be on Spotify. That's my only outfit, not my only outfit. It's my only outlet.
That is really neat. Very cool. I love that you make those connections.
Thank you very much.
It's subtext.
Yeah, that's right. Subtext. All right, you guys, he's here right now. You hear him talking. He's an author and a humorist and a U.S. Marine sergeant and a writer and a screenwriter. And you are a former sergeant, like we said, in the United States Marine Corps. And you have been working with Norman Lear for decades, which is so interesting. And now The Pink Marine will be on Netflix. I just can't wait. I'm so happy for you. You guys can find more out about it at thepinkmarine.com. And also follow Greg on social media, on Twitter and on Instagram at EatGregEat.
Yes.
I love Eat Greg Eat. One of the reasons why I like Eat Greg Eat is there's so many vowels. It's like vowel, vowel, vowel. I don't know. It just looks good. Eat Greg Eat. Anyway, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for the very talented Greg Cope White.
So I had just graduated Marine Corps boot camp, which is 13 weeks. It's, I was kind of sold on the idea that it was summer camp, and it is, but it's not. But it's very intense. So I'd finished Marine Corps boot camp, and I was out in my regular unit, and I'd been about 9 months, and I was also in college at the time, and I was in a play. Now, the Marines have a very strict grooming standard. Our grooming standards are higher than others. What tattoos we can have, what facial hair we can have, which is almost none, and we have a legendarily short haircut. But I needed my hair to be a little bit out of regulation length just for this play. And I'd heard that my commanding officer was looking for me and to talk about my hair. So I'd been hiding from him for days, and it was Friday night. I was almost out of there, and I see him coming down the hall with a pair of scissors right at me. And I said, "Sir, I just need my hair a little bit longer just for the weekend. I'm in a play." And he said, "Wait a second. Are you in college?" And I said, "I am." And he said, "Have you heard about officer candidate school?" And I said, "Well, would it make you not cut my hair if I listened?" And he said, "Yes, it would." So officer candidate school is a whole different game. Basically, I went to boot camp 3 times because officer candidate school can either be 10 weeks or you can split it into 2 summers of 6 weeks each. And I thought 6 weeks towards that sounds better. But then, of course, when I got to the second half, it was boot camp all over again. Anyway, boot camp is hard, enlisted boot camp. Officer candidate school is a whole different kind of hard. You're learning to be a leader more than a follower. And so that the mental tests and the physical tests are combined, and it's rough. So I get there, and the first day I'm at Quantico, which is in Virginia, and we're standing on the base, we're standing at attention, listening to our commanding officer greet us for the summer session.
Now, how many people is this?
There's probably 30 guys. It's a little bit more, it's a smaller class than enlisted. I had 70 in my enlisted class, and about 30 here. You have to be in college.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Exactly. Because that when you said, "Yeah, I'm in college," then that triggered him to say, "Oh, well, then you should do this other program."
Yes. In order to be an officer, you have to have graduated from college. So I'm still in college, and it's a little bit different because me and 2 other guys in my unit had prior experience. We'd been to Marine Corps boot camp, so we knew a lot, but they didn't expect us to. We still had to learn everything that everybody else did. I just had a tiny bit of an advantage because I kind of knew what was coming. The drill instructors are just as mean as they are in enlisted boot camp, but I'd already had that interaction with those guys, so I was ready for it. I mean, you're never ready for it. It's a crazy
Yeah, I don't understand what that dynamic is. In other words, if they're not mean and strict, then you don't learn. Why is that?
Not to bring you down, but the reason that they are strict is because they have a job to do, which is to train you to defend your country. And what they have to do is get you to the place where you can commit the most vile act that we've been trained not to ever commit our whole life, which is murder. I have to be willing to kill as well as die for my country.
Jeez. Okay.
Sorry, that was a bit of a left turn there.
No, but that's why you're saying that they yell and scream. I mean, that's why they are so demanding, because they want you to act quickly or respond quickly.
You have to act on an order without processing it too much because time is of the essence. Whatever mission you're on is life and death, and you have to treat it with that level of severity.
Wow. Okay.
So back to the fun stuff. They tell us as the commanding officer is giving us an overview of how rough this summer is going to be and what they expect of us and everything else. I'm realizing that, yes, this is going to be a whole different challenge than enlisted boot camp. But he says, you know what? We're going to make it worth your while. If you do everything that I tell you to the best of your ability and meet the standards that we've set here in Officer Candidate School, we're going to reward you at graduation night with a steak dinner. Now, the food in the Marine Corps is not known to be good. It's just known to be enough. Mm-hmm. And believe me, after you've been training for 4 or 5 hours, that meal is the best meal you've ever had. And it's all you're getting. There's no 7-Eleven that you can go to and get a big gulp and a hot dog. But you have to eat what's given to you, and you have to rely on that to be the nutrition that's going to drive you through the day with these incredibly hard tasks. So every day I would crawl under barbed wire through mud and rain and run through the woods carrying my M16 and jumping over cargo nets and assaulting dummies with a bayonet, arm wrestling, all the stuff that I needed to do for 6 weeks, me and my brothers. And we would talk every few days. We'd say, yeah, this is awful, but just think about that steak dinner. So that steak dinner was the carrot dangling in front of me for 6 weeks as I was going through literal hell. Graduation night comes. We're lining up outside, which was, not the chow hall. I thought, well, of course, a steak dinner is going to be a barbecue steak dinner.
Is this all 30 people are still there, or did anybody drop out?
Well, there's other platoons as well. So there's probably about 300 of us at this point. And we're all we often ate together. So we're all standing there at attention in the line, holding our trays outside, which was, again, not in the chow hall. We're outside, but hey, it's a barbecue. I'm getting a steak dinner. And we're inching closer, and I'm hoping that I can start smelling the steak cooking soon to just get me salivating and excited. I certainly was thinking about that in my mind.
Right.
So I inch closer, and I'm still not seeing any smoke or not smelling anything. And I thought, well, they're probably grilling it inside and then bringing it outside. So I got pretty close. And then, Christine, I saw something horrible. I saw the cook in a white hat and apron, a little sweaty, reaching into a pot, a vat, if you will, a cauldron, 4 feet high, 3 feet across. He reached into it with his hairy paw and a pair of tongs and pulled out a piece of boiled beef. Oh. It was gray. It was tough. It was dead. And I like my steaks medium rare. I don't know about you, but I just don't like them boiled. 6 weeks I had been going through hell for this. We're all pissed off. We're sitting around. There aren't even tables. We're sitting around on the grass. We're sitting there bitching and complaining, as we always do, about whether we're wearing green wool socks in the summer or whatever. We're complaining. I would have rather had an MRE at that point in the steak. We're trying to cut it. It's just sliding across the metal tray.
What else
we're
is
frustrated.
On the plate?
Probably potatoes and maybe some green beans, something that they can serve mass. So we're complaining, and all of a sudden, a buddy of mine, who up to this point had not been anything but sane and a real hard worker, reached over and sees a little frog on the ground. And without anybody daring him or betting him $1, he picked up that frog without saying a word and popped it in his mouth. And he chewed that frog and swallowed it.
Oh, God.
That was better than the steak, he said.
Oh, my God.
It was also hard to pop, he let us know.
Oh, gross. Oh,
that's the
God.
Marine Corps. That's the Marine Corps. That's Marine Corps chow. That's what it's about. Oh, my
gosh. I didn't even know you could boil meat.
You can't. Anybody listening, you can't. Don't do it. It's impossible. You will meet a horrible end.
So they just had a big vat of meat in water.
that I had been anticipating for 6 weeks.
That is so upsetting. Did anybody say, where's the beef? Did anybody say
all
it?
of us. We can't, like I said, there's no alternative. There wasn't a steak and ale across the street we could go to.
Right.
We're on the base.
Right.
The
Right.
only thing, we knew that we were graduating the next morning and we were out of there and could have anything we wanted to eat. But yes, it was, it was hell to pay.
And then, so that's the night before graduation, and then everybody goes back. There's no party or anything, right? It's just you go back to your barracks or wherever, right? You're sleeping.
Back to your barracks, yes. We did do we did a prank that night. We snuck out and stole a rival platoon's guidon.
What's that mean?
That's the flag that they carry at the front of their platoon. It's their pride and joy, and so we took their entire soul away.
Oh my gosh! It must have been so silly.
We took their guidon and we climbed up on a water tower and we strapped it to the water tower. So that when they woke up, they're like, "Where's our guidon? Where's the beef? Where's our guidon?"
And there it is up on the water tower.
The shame.
It really does sound like, I understand when you first enlisted, you heard the word camp, and it was a summer camp or something. That's what you thought. That sort of sounds like a fun camp prank.
I thought I'd improve my canoeing skills, maybe end up with one of those hand-laced wallets. I'd been to camp.
Maybe a comb sheath. You don't know. Anything could happen.
Crafts.
And then you get in there and they just beat you down, huh?
They bend you as far as they can and then build you back up. They're not going to give up on you. You have to give up on yourself. I'd never had, that's what I'd never had, Christine. I'd never had anybody I didn't have, because I went to 13 schools in 11 years and everything, all the other stories about my childhood that you see in the book. Let's face it, I had a shitty childhood and this kind of makes up for it.
Yeah, because it's almost like a family, like you entered a family of brotherhood.
One that I never expected to embrace me.
Yeah, and then it's been so impactful in your entire life, and now everybody's going to learn about it.
There's so many things that I take away and use every day. I certainly rarely need an alarm clock, but when you're in the Marine Corps and you're in your training and you're on a force march, for instance, and it's mile 10, you've got a pack on your back that weighs 60, maybe 70 pounds. You're marching and you just think you can't take one more step. You actually can. You can take one more step. And that's how I wrote the book when I was tired and exhausted and didn't know what was going to happen with it. I didn't know if anybody was ever going to read it or if it was any good, all that stuff that we go on. You're a writer too. You know what that's like. I kept those things in the very front of my mind. You can take one more step. I can write one more page. I can finish this book. I can get it out there. I can find an agent. I am built for success as long as I do the work.
That is such a wonderful way to live. That's smart. I love that.
I'm still full of self-doubt every day and everything that I do, but I try to conquer it using the lessons that I learned in the Marine Corps.
So, and by going into the officer program, it sounds more elite, right? Is it more elite? Like, do you get paid more?
Yes.
Because you have a college education.
Yes. The pay rate is different and you have different responsibilities. You're there to lead. I finished officer candidate school, but I decided not to take my commission. I was going to go to law school and serve in the JAG Corps for them, but I went back and finished my time as an enlisted man. I decided not to do any of that. And one of those reasons is because I was still having to keep my lifestyle a secret. And so when I was thinking about signing up for another term, another enlistment contract or officer candidate school, which is a 5-year commitment. If I took my commission and then went to law school, I couldn't take another 5 years of hiding my sexuality. I couldn't be my authentic self in there. It felt disingenuous when I would get close with someone. I just couldn't share that with them. And I thought I'd rather enjoy the time that I had, the 6 years that I had, and go on and do other things where I can live my authentic life. than just put
Well,
myself
that's
through
the
it.
thing I was saying about my buddy Jacob, who did the 4 years and you did the 6 years. I mean, what a wonderful accomplishment. You know, you started it, you went through it, you finished it, and that you can't take that away from you. You know, it's a really exciting thing to have done in your life. It's a really exciting thing.
Thank you. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's the event that changed my life.
So for the Netflix series, do you basically like write down every memory you've ever had about what happened? But it's not all going to be completely true, right? There are going to be other scenarios. You're going to work with writers and bring in other storylines, obviously, right?
We have the book that's full of stories, so we had those stories. But yes, I'll take stories from everybody else that was on staff. You know, the showrunner, he brought in stories. Andrea Chenevey, the number 2 in the room, she had stories. The 2 Marines.
What's the number 2 mean?
The showrunner's next person. I guess it's kind of like the runner-up in Miss America. Should anything happen to the showrunner, she can step up and take responsibility.
Yeah, sure.
And we had 2 combat Marines. You know, Megan Burke was a Marine Corps officer. We had her experiences, and she shared those. We had Nick Jones, an enlisted combat veteran. He had his own stories to bring. So everybody brings those stories in, but the book was always the touchstone because that's who we're following. We're following my character and with his secret and enlisting with his best friend. And that's our story.
That's good.
It's a story of 2 guys, 2 unlikely best friends that enter the Marine Corps together. And the landmines are both literal and metaphorical.
And you can't tell us about who these actors are going to be, or can you tell us?
Not yet. I'm blown away by the cast that we've attracted, and it's all because of the script and, of course, the source material. No, it's because of the script.
I know, it's true, but it's so interesting, the pre-production that goes into this. I mean, you've been working on this for years, and you're finally going to start shooting. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that the shooting days, the production itself, is just a teeny piece of the pie. Most of it is pre-production, and then the post-production as well. So it's interesting that it's finally coming to fruition, and you're finally going to be, you know, cameras are rolling. Now, are people going to be, you're using the Marine Corps uniforms, et cetera?
Yes, everything. Yeah.
Do you have to get permission from anybody?
We
from
did,
the Marines?
and we haven't.
Wait, you did get permission from the Marine Corps?
Yep.
And then you said you haven't what?
Oh, we have it. We have that permission.
Oh, you have that permission.
Yes.
Okay. Because I would think that that's a big deal. I mean, to put on the, you know, American soldier uniform, you know, if it's a romping comedy or if it's not tasteful, they don't want that, right?
Well,
or
it's actually an hour-long dramedy. And it's, you know, if you, the first thing you'll finish, when you finish my book, usually the first thing that people say is, wow, Kirkus Reviews said it's a surprisingly, positive review of the Marine Corps and military service. I took so much away from the Marine Corps that's good. I hate that I had friends that were kicked out for being gay. That's a nightmare to have watched their lives be ruined and torn up like that. We have 3 military advisors on the show. 2 of them are Marines, and one of them was kicked out under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And, you know, when we first met and started talking, we sobbed together, because we both know what that is like, and his story just puts a lot of positive empathy on this story. Yeah. But under it all, this is a love letter to the Marine Corps.
That is so lovely. I think that's so wonderful that you hold it in such reverence and give it the, give it the credence it deserves. You know, I mean, it is. They always say the Marines are the hardest. They always say it's the hardest corps, right? They're the most hardcore of all of our military forces. Yes,
and it makes sense that that's where I ended up. The gays love an upgrade.
Why did they call Marines jarheads? What does that mean?
Our haircut, when we're in regulation hair, is just a little patch on the top, and people act like they could just use that little patch and screw it open like a jar.
Turn it.
Go ahead and try. It doesn't work.
Well, it's more than like high and tight. It's like no hair, and then like you said, just like a little, like almost like a what do they call it? A myrrh?
Oh, like a little merkin?
A merkin.
Yeah, we just call it high and tight. We're proud to wear that haircut. You know, you earn that haircut in boot camp.
Yeah.
As you might remember from the book, we would lean out in the barber line every week to see if the guys coming out before us had a whole head shaved or if they were letting that little patch grow. Because every week you're wondering, is this the week we're going to get that little patch? And they make you earn it, and you really want it. Just like I wanted that steak for 6 weeks, I wanted that little patch of hair. And I'm trying to remember the week that we get it in boot camp. It's around week 8 or 9. And once they deem you ready, they'll let you grow a little patch out.
Unbelievable. It's just so much discipline. It's so much, God, I don't know if I could have ever done that. I was in the Peace Corps, but that's a whole different kind of corps.
Where were you stationed?
I was in the Kingdom of Tonga in the South Pacific.
Wow.
Yeah, but we didn't have any of those rules. Nothing
No,
like that.
but you did have to agree to live in the same standards of the villages and the places that you were trying to improve.
Right, and you don't get any money. It's a volunteer position, you know. Oh, yeah, but you know, I did feel safe going into the Peace Corps in that, you know, there is an entity above you. You know, there is somebody you can call to, as it were. It's, you know, I've traveled extensively because I was a flight attendant. But, like, if you're backpacking around Australia, okay, that's just you backpacking around Australia, and there's no oversight, as it were. But if you go into the Marine Corps, there's the adventure, but at least there's a little bit of oversight. Does that make sense?
It does.
People know where you are. You're being held accountable. People know where you are. You're going to be taken care of. You're not going to be just left, you know.
You can look at control. You know, when you were in the Peace Corps, you still had control. You could leave. You could fly out the next day, as opposed to being a flight attendant where you're on a plane, you're at 35,000 feet, you're actually completely out of control.
Yeah. Yeah, most of my life. Yeah, just that's a whole different world. But I'm glad I did that. I'm glad it's part of my life. I'm glad it's behind me. Would I like to do a Netflix series about it? Sure.
Well, your book is about that time, right? Doesn't your book include flight attendant
sweet
stories?
Of you. It does. That's so sweet of you. Pitt to LAX, yeah. Pitt to LAX, because those are like the city codes. So that's why I called it that. Pitt to LAX. It took me, in other words, it was like Pittsburgh to Los Angeles via the Kingdom of Tonga. I was more afraid of coming to LA than going to a third world country. And rightly so.
Oh, you were absolutely right. There's many times where I'd often rather, along the course of my career, I would have much rather woken up in Tonga.
Well, this is just great, Greg. I'm so happy you came back on the show because now you're leaving. Now you're flying out to New Orleans, and you are going to be unreachable for how long are you going to be down there?
5-month shoot.
Oh my!
It's 6 months.
And are you subleasing your apartment or something or whatever?
No, my home will be here. Everything will be here, and you know, you'll
be there.
There's people here, and yes.
Well, it's just so exciting.
You know, because I also live in Montreal. My boyfriend's in Montreal, so we're used to being.
I had no idea.
We're used to living out of a suitcase.
Why is he so far away, or why can't he be here or you be there?
I just like imported things. I need something with a story, Christine. I need
a friend.
I need a lot of stuff to come with anything that I get involved with.
I have a friend who said that he only sees his wife 3 or 4 times a year. And I said, you know, that sounds like a perfect marriage.
Yeah, you know, we many people know we have a thing where when we are apart, we spend that whole day and night on Skype together. So we're apart right now. I'm getting ready to go. So he'll today at 3:30 my time. We get on Skype. It's famous. When I was hosting a show for Food Network, they wanted this show because I put on a Skype cooking show for him every day.
Oh.
And he gets involved. He, has notes.
I had no idea that you were on the Food Network. What was happening?
Well, when I was writing the book, I didn't take any jobs. I had I really focused on just the book. I didn't, and no one saw any pages. I was just focused on that, but I wanted to not take jobs. However, in order to get my narrative voice in shape to write the book, I wrote a food blog for a few years before that. It's not up now. I might put it back up, but I was just writing humorous stories about the Marine Corps and food and cooking. And as I was writing the book, Mark Burnett reached out to me, and I did a show for him, a food competition show, and then Food Network reached out at the same time. They had found the blog too. The blog was also running on Huffington Post. And so the Food Network reached out, and they said, I think you're a pilot. So I did put the book on pause for about a week, flew to New York and met with them, and they had me do a pilot. I did a pilot for them. I ride horses as well, I think you know. So I played polo in the pilot and then replicated an Argentinian barbecue and asada. And then I hosted some shows for Food Network. The most one was Unique Sweets, a dessert show. And then some other things with them. They're wonderful. I just saw my executives last week. I did a show at Post 43 where veteran authors, their work is read by actors. It's called Word Theater. And it's not all veterans. It's just what other authors they have. And it was a fun night. And Food Network came, and they're still lovely. And
that's so exciting. Did you teach people to make boiled meat?
I'm teaching people why that's wrong. Why it's okay to put a little fire under that cow.
The only time you boil anything is I'll boil like a baked potato to get it done a little bit, and then I put it in the oven anyway. Do you know what I mean? But if you boil it first, it gives you like a head start on the potato. But that's not meat.
No. And you can definitely, by parboiling something like that, it can give you not only the increased cooking time, but it might even get a little bit crunchier or crisper. You can boil it. If you boil that potato, cut it in quarters, toss it in oil and salt, and then put it on a roasting pan at like 425. Yes. It will, because it's already halfway cooked, it will feel free to get super brown and crunchy.
Thanks for the tip, Greg Copewhite.
I know you cook with your daughter. You're always posting, especially when she was younger. She was always making things together. That's so cute.
Yeah, she's a pea pod. Now they're 16, so wow.
But that's a chance to swap stories and find out what they're up to, and you're implanting memories that she may write about one day.
I hope so. Yeah, no, they're doing really well. They go to an art school here in LA, and they're in the cinema studies. So it's just, it's studying film already in 10th grade. It's very exciting.
That's great. If one I always recommend to people that are interested in studying film is Kurosawa's Ron.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. That's like old school, the Japanese director.
Yeah. And to watch what he did, to watch him, how he slowed those battle scenes down in slow-mo and cranked up the classical music. It's just a beautiful look at King Lear.
Yeah. Wow. No, I've never seen that. But I know that his work, Kurosawa, is that how you say it?
Yes. I think.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man, you know a lot, but you can't know everything, Greg. You can't know everything.
I'm out here to learn, Christine. I'm out here to learn.
You guys, make sure you check out Greg's website, thepinkmarine.com, and then follow Greg on social media at EatGregEat. And don't forget, you guys, to check out My Life in 3 Songs over there on Spotify, or you can go over to the website, mylifein3songs.com. All right, you guys, we got to wrap it up. Thank you so much again for tuning in to Storyworthy. Remember, you guys, to join my mailing list, you go over to storyworthypodcast.com, boom, click on my mailing list, and I'll send you a sweet letter every week, or maybe every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks if I'm losing my mind. You know how it is. All right, you guys. One more time on behalf of the very talented Greg Copewhite. Thank you, friend.
Thank you for having me, Christine. Our conversation years ago was one of the first I ever did in getting ready for the book marketing thing, and I really appreciate that conversation and this one.
Thank you. All right, you guys. My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.